Hello children, today we are starting with the topic respiration, and in this, first of all, let us see the definition of respiration. It is the process of biochemical oxidation of nutrients in the presence of specific enzymes at optimum temperature in the cells to release energy for metabolic activities. So whatever metabolic activities are going on in our body, for that the respiration process provides energy, and that energy is given out by the process of oxidation of the glucose, that too with the specific enzymes. Now let's see the next part, that is types of respiration. There are two types of respiration. One is aerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, the glucose completely oxidizes and produces 38 ATP molecules. While in anaerobic respiration, there are two different categories. One is alcoholic fermentation and the other one is lactic acid fermentation. So you can see over here, this is the alcoholic fermentation. In this, first of all, the first step is similar in all the three. Glucose converts to pyruvate, and this then converts to ethanol and carbon dioxide and energy in the absence of oxygen. And a very good example of this is during the formation of bread, during the making of bread, yeast is used, and that carbon dioxide is responsible for the softness of the bread, and ethanol is also produced in it. The next is in the muscles, lactic acid fermentation takes place. Again, the first step is same, which takes place in the cytoplasm. Glucose converts to pyruvate, and in the lack of oxygen, when we do lot of hard work, at that time this pyruvate converts to lactic acid and energy. The third, that is the aerobic respiration. It happens in this way. Again, glucose converts to pyruvate, then this converts to carbon dioxide, water and energy. 38 ATP molecules are produced in this case, while in these two cases only 2 ATP molecules are produced, and this takes place in our cells in mitochondria. Now what are the stages of respiration? The stages of respiration are one is external respiration and the other one is internal respiration. External respiration divides, it can be categorized into two parts. Breathing, inhaling gas and exhaling gas, matlab inhaling of air and exhaling of carbon dioxide. This comes under external respiration. Another part which comes under external respiration is gaseous exchange, which takes place in alveoli. Means between blood and alveoli there is gaseous exchange. From the alveoli, oxygen goes into the blood. From the blood, carbon dioxide comes into the alveoli. Then comes internal respiration. Internal respiration takes place inside the cells. That is the oxidation of glucose. Now, here we are going to see, there are in the chapter we are dividing it into two parts. One is respiration in plants and the other one is respiration in humans. So let's see the respiration in plants. The first part is the gaseous exchange in roots, which take place because of the diffusion. From the soil, the oxygen gets into the root through the root hairs, and from the root hairs, carbon dioxide goes out into the soil. Takes place by the process of diffusion. Next is gaseous exchange in stems. It is through the lenticels. The lenticels are the special pores which are present in the old stems. So gaseous exchange takes place there also. Then comes gaseous exchange through leaves, which is the most common one. That is through stomata. At night, because there is no photosynthesis, that is why from the stomata CO2 is eliminated, while during the daytime the CO2 which is generated during respiration is used up in photosynthesis, and the outcome, the resultant, is the oxygen release. So at night carbon dioxide is released, during the daytime oxygen is released. Next is the respiration in animals. Actually, animals can be divided into two categories, beta. One is simple organisms and the other is complex organisms. In simple organisms, it takes place through diffusion. For example, here you can see planaria. In planaria, by simply diffusion, oxygen gets inside planaria and goes out. Carbon dioxide goes out of the body of the planaria. While in complex organisms, there are respiratory organs. For example, in case of fishes, there are gills. In case of insects, there are spiracles, trachea, and in case of humans, there are lungs. So these are the special respiratory organs in the complex organisms, because diffusion is not sufficient for respiration in complex organisms. And these respiratory surfaces should have these features, these characteristics. They should be thin-walled, they should be moist, they should have large surface area, and they should have rich blood supply, which we can see all of these characters in gills also, and in case of lungs also, in case of trachea also. There is large surface area. Thin walled, so that diffusion can take place easily, exchange of gases can take place easily. Moist, so then the gases can get a medium to dissolve. Large surface area means the exchange rate will be more. Rich blood supply also ensures the exchange rate of gases to be more. Next is respiration in human beings. For respiration in human beings, let us see the diagram first. In this diagram, we can see that there are nostrils. From the nostrils, the air is inhaled, passing through the nasal passage. It goes into the pharynx. From the pharynx, it goes into the larynx, the voice box. Now there is trachea. In the trachea, there are cartilaginous rings which are very easily observed. These rings of cartilage does not allow the trachea to collapse when there is no air in it. Now this trachea divides into two bronchus, and these bronchus divides into bronchioles. At the end, there are alveoli. Alveoli are air sacs where the air is exchanged with the blood. So the air passes through the walls of the trachea and then into the walls of the blood vessels to the blood. From there, carbon dioxide gets into the alveoli by the same process of diffusion. Now let's see the characteristics, the function of actually the different parts of the respiratory system. The nostrils, they have fine hairs that filter the air. When we inhale the air, then at that time there are dust particles in it, there are bacteria in it, so all of those are filtered by the fine hairs present in it. Then there is the nasal passage. The nasal passage do the conditioning of air, means the air, its temperature is maintained according to the body temperature. Then it passes through pharynx, then larynx, voice box. When the air passes through voice box, only then the voice can be created. So voice box, from there it passes, then it moves to the trachea. As I told you, there are rings of cartilage which does not allow the trachea to collapse. Then this air passes through the bronchi and enter the lungs. There are two bronchioles. Then at the end, in the balloon-like structure in alveoli, where the gaseous exchange takes place between the alveoli and the blood in the blood vessels. Then there are ribs. Actually, these ribs are those parts, 12 pairs of ribs are there which protect our heart and lungs. And during the inhalation and exhalation process, these ribs, their contraction and relaxation, it plays a great role in it. Now the lungs, they are found on both the sides of the heart. Then there is a protective membrane called pleura, in which the residual volume of air is present. Means the air is always present in the lungs, whether we are inhaling or exhaling. At that time also, all the time the air is present in the lungs. It is known as residual volume of air, so that the exchange of gases, it does not stop. Then there is diaphragm. Diaphragm is the partition between the thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavity, and it helps in the inhalation and exhalation because this diaphragm helps in the making the chest cavity bigger in volume or smaller in volume according to the inhalation and exhalation. So this completes today's session. In the next session, we are going to discuss about the next topics, that is mechanism of gaseous exchange. Thank you, beta.